Very good morning to all of you. Today we'll be continuing our discussion with respect to trial. Today we'll be discussing a trial of warrant cases by magistrate upon a police report or otherwise than on police report. We'll be discussing a trial of summon cases by magistrate and a survey trial. As we have already discussed the trial before court of session in detail, so I believe you will not have much difficulty in understanding these trials.
Trial of warrant cases by magistrate on police report. If I ask you a question, what is a warrant case and what is a police report? So the answer would be a warrant case is being defined under section 2x of the code, and it means a case relating to an offence which is punishable with death or imprisonment for life or an imprisonment for a term exceeding 2 years. On the other hand, a police report means a report forwarded by a police officer to a magistrate under subsection 2 of section 173, and that is also being defined under section 2R of the code. Compliance with section 207. The magistrate shall satisfy himself that the provisions under section 207 are compliant with. Now, section 238 of the code provides that when an accused appears or is brought before the magistrate for trial, the copies of FIR, statement of persons recorded during investigation, etc. are required to be supplied to him. And if upon considering the police report and the documents sent with it under section 173 and making such examination, if any, of the accused as the magistrate thinks necessary, and after giving the prosecution and the accused an opportunity of being heard, the magistrate consider the charge against the accused to be groundless, he shall discharge the accused and record his reasons for doing so. While discussing the trial before court of session, we have already discussed the principle relating to the discharge of accused, which was summarized by the Supreme Court in the cases of Union of India vs. Prafulla Kumar Samal and Sajjan Kumar vs. CBI. If the magistrate has not discharged the accused, and again, if upon such consideration, examination, if any, and hearing the magistrate is of the opinion that there is ground for presuming that the accused has committed an offence, triable under this chapter, which such magistrate is competent to try and which in his opinion could be adequately punished by him, he shall frame in writing a charge against the accused, and the charge shall be read and explained to the accused, and he shall be asked whether he pleads guilty of the offence charge or claims to be tried. If the accused pleads guilty, the magistrate shall record his plea, and the magistrate may in his discretion convict him on such plea. If, however, the accused refuses to plead guilty or does not plead or claims to be tried, or if the magistrate does not convict him despite pleading guilty, the magistrate must fix a date for the examination of witnesses, and on such date the magistrate shall record evidence and may permit cross-examination or recall of any witnesses. After the witness for the prosecution have been examined and before the accused is called upon to enter upon his defense, the magistrate shall question the accused generally on the case under section 313 of the code. After the evidence for prosecution and examining of the accused under section 313, the accused shall be called upon to enter upon his defense and produce his evidence. The magistrate, if necessary, order for production of such witnesses or thing. Sections 248 to section 250 lays down a common procedure in respect of cases instituted on a police report and cases instituted otherwise than on a police report. Now, referring to section 248, section 248 provides with respect to acquittal or conviction. Now, in every case where a charge has been framed and if the magistrate finds the accused not guilty, he shall record an order of acquittal. This is being laid down under section 248 subsection 1. But if, however, he finds the accused guilty, then in case he does not proceed in accordance with the provisions of either section 325, which provides for cases where the magistrate cannot pass sentence sufficiently severe, or section 360, which provides for cases wherein he releases the accused on probation or admonition, he passes sentence on the accused after giving him a hearing regarding the quantum of sentence. With respect to previous conviction, if in any case the accused is charged with a previous conviction and it does not admit that he had been previously convicted as alleged in the charge, then after convicting the accused, the magistrate may take evidence in respect of the alleged previous conviction and then record a finding thereon. provided that no such charge shall be read out by the magistrate, nor shall the accused be asked to plead thereto, nor shall the previous conviction be referred to by the prosecution or in any evidence adduced by it, unless and until the accused has been convicted under subsection 2 of section 248. Cases instituted otherwise than on police report. The procedure regarding the trial of warrant cases instituted otherwise than on police report is contained in sections 244 to section 250 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. Now, referring to the cases instituted otherwise than on police report. Now, cases instituted otherwise than on police report means a complaint case. As we have read that what is a complaint? A complaint is defined under section 2D of the code, and a complaint is defined as a complaint means any allegation made orally or in writing to a magistrate with a view to take an action under this code that some person, whether known or unknown, has committed an offense but does not include a police report. So section 2D of the code defines a complaint, and the procedure with respect to complaint to magistrates is how it is to be made is being provided under chapter 15 of the code from section 200 to 203. And the trial with respect to a complaint case, or we can say a trial with respect to a cases instituted otherwise than on police report, is provided under from section 244 to section 250 of the code. Evidence for prosecution. Under section 244 of the code, when in any warrant case instituted otherwise than on police report, the accused appears or is brought before the magistrate must proceed to hear the prosecution and shall take all evidences as may be produced in support of the prosecution. Now, in a trial of warrant case instituted otherwise than on police report, section 245 makes provision as to when the accused shall be discharged. Now, if upon taking all the evidence referred to in section 244, the magistrate considers for reason to be recorded that no case against the accused has been made out which, if unreverted, would warrant his conviction, the magistrate shall discharge him. Now, this section shall not be deemed to prevent a magistrate from discharging the accused at any previous stage of the case, if for no reasons to be recorded by such magistrate, he considers the charge to be groundless. If the accused is not discharged and a prima facie case is made out by the prosecution that the accused has committed an offence, the court shall frame the charge against the accused, and when the charges are being framed against the accused, the contents of the charge shall be read over and explained to the accused so that he pleads guilty or claims to be tried. If the accused refuses to plead guilty or does not plead guilty or claims to be tried, he may be given an opportunity to cross-examine the prosecution witnesses. After the compliance of section 313, the accused must be called upon to enter his defense and produce his evidence. The magistrate may, if necessary, order for production of such witnesses or thing. Section 248 is common to both the cases instituted upon police report and as well as the cases instituted otherwise than on police report. So if a magistrate finds that the accused not guilty, he shall record an order of acquittal. However, if he finds the accused guilty, then he shall, after hearing the accused on the question of sentence, pass sentence according to law and also comply with the other procedures as provided under section 248 of the code. If the proceedings are instituted on a complaint and the complainant absent himself on any day fixed for the hearing, then it is at the discretion of the magistrate that the magistrate may discharge the accused. And the magistrate may discharge the accused if the offence is compoundable in nature or the offence is non-cognizable. Compensation for accusation without reasonable cause. Section 250 of the code provides that in any case instituted upon complaint or upon information given to a police officer or magistrate, the magistrate, while discharging or acquitting the accused, thinks that there was no reasonable ground for making the accusation against the accused person, he may call upon the person making such accusation to show cause why he should not pay compensation to the accused person. If the magistrate is ordering for a compensation, the amount of compensation shall not exceed the amount of fine which the magistrate is empowered to impose. The magistrate may further order that in default of payment, the person ordered to pay shall undergo simple imprisonment for a term not exceeding 30 days. Further, any person who has been directed to pay compensation is not exempted from any civil or criminal liability merely by reason of such an order. However, in subsequent suit, the amount of compensation paid earlier shall be taken into consideration. Section 250, subsection 6 and subsection 7 provides that when a complainant who has been ordered by a second class magistrate to pay compensation exceeding rupees 100, he may appeal from the order, and the compensation shall not be paid to the accused till a decision on the appeal or till the period allowed for the presentation of appeal has elapsed. Where such an order is made in a case which is not subject to appeal, the compensation shall not be paid before the expiration of 1 month from the date of the order. The operation of Section 250 is restricted to cases instituted by complaint as defined in the code, or upon information given to a police officer or a magistrate, and consequently it has no application to the case instituted on a police report or an information given by a police officer. The provisions of this section shall apply to summon cases as well as warrant cases. Trial of summon cases by magistrate. Section 2W of the code defines summon case as summon case means a case relating to an offence and not being a warrant case. This implies that all cases relating to offences punishable with imprisonment not exceeding 2 years are summon cases. A trial of summon case is not as elaborate and formal as that in warrant cases, and the courts have been empowered to use summary procedures. Sections 251 to 259 deals with the trial of summon cases by magistrate, and the procedure contains the following stages. Substance of accusation to be stated. In a summon case, when the accused appears or is brought before the magistrate, he shall be informed of the particulars of the accusation. To frame a charge, the magistrate shall ask the accused whether he pleads guilty or claim to be tried. Section 251 of the code deals with the stage subsequent to the issue of process under Section 204 CRPC in a summon trial case. This section casts a duty upon the magistrate to state the accused person the particulars of offence allegedly committed by him and ask him whether he pleads guilty. Now, in summon cases, no formal charge is required to frame as in warrant cases. However, the substance of accusation is to be put to the accused, which is similar to the framing of charge in warrant cases. The accused is entitled to hearing at the stage of framing of notice under Section 251. In a trial, if a summon case is tried jointly with a warrant case, then the procedure of the warrant case is to be followed. A charge will then have to be drawn up for the summon case also in that trial. When the substance of accusation is being stated to the accused and the accused pleads guilty before the magistrate, then in that case the magistrate shall record the plea as nearly as possible in the words which are being used by the accused and may convict him. But it is not mandatory, means the magistrate is not bound to convict the accused if he thinks it necessary to have evidence of his guilt or the prosecution report does not make out an offence under a statute. Section 253 deals with the conviction on plea of guilty in absence of accused in petty cases. Now, Section 253 of the code provides that where a summon has been issued under Section 206 and the accused desires to plead guilty to the charge without appearing before the magistrate, he shall transmit to the magistrate by post or by messenger a letter containing his plea and also the amount of fine specified in the summons. However, the magistrate may in his discretion convict the accused in his absence on his plea of guilty and sentence him to pay a fine specified in the summons, and the amount transmitted by the accused shall be adjusted towards that fine. Or where a pleader authorized by the accused in this behalf pleads guilty on behalf of the accused, the magistrate shall record the plea as nearly as possible in the words used by the pleader and may in his discretion convict the accused on such plea and sentence him. Section 254 contemplates the necessity of the magistrate to hear the accused and to record the defense evidence. It provides the procedure when the accused is not convicted. Now, it states that if the magistrate does not convict the accused under Section 252 or Section 253, the magistrate shall proceed to hear the prosecution and take all such evidence as may be produced in support of the prosecution, and also to hear the accused and take all such evidence as he produces in his defense. Subsection 2 of section 254 states that the magistrate may, if it thinks fit, on the application of the prosecution or the accused, issue a summon to any witness directing him to attend or to produce any document or other thing. Subsection 3 of section 254 provides that magistrate may, before summoning any witness on such application, require that the reasonable expenses of the witnesses incurred in attending for the purpose of the trial be deposited in court. The word hearing employed in section 254 of the code is not intended to have a separate adjournment for hearing alone after the appearance of the accused, but it includes the taking of the evidence of the prosecution and also the taking of the evidence for defense for the purpose of deciding the issue of facts and laws concerning the subject matter for prosecution in that particular case. Acquittal or conviction. Now, after taking evidence as referred to in section 254 or any such further evidence, the magistrate may on his own motion cause to be produced, find the accused not guilty, he shall record an order of acquittal. And if the magistrate does not record an order for acquittal and the magistrate does not proceed in accordance with the provisions of section 325 or section 360 of the code, he shall, if he finds the accused guilty, he may pass a sentence according to law. Under section 252 or section 255, the magistrate may convict the accused of any offence triable under this chapter which forms the facts admitted or proved he appears to have committed, whatever may be the nature of the complaint or summons, if the magistrate is satisfied that the accused would not be prejudiced. The subsection gives the magistrate discretion to proceed in those cases where the evidence for the prosecution establishes an offence other than that referred to in the complaint or summons. That is, if the magistrate thinks that an offence different from that referred to in the complaint or summons is prima facie established, he must act according to the provisions of section 251. He must state the particulars of such offence to the accused so that he may be able to make his defence accordingly, and the magistrate, before convicting the accused under subsection 3 for a different offence, should satisfy himself that by doing so the accused is not in any way prejudiced. And further, this provision does not enjoin the trial magistrate to hear the accused on the question of sentence as provided by section 248 subsection 2. Non-appearance or death of complainant. Now, section 256 empowers a magistrate to pass an order of acquittal on non-appearance or death of the complainant. This section provides that in complaint case, if after issuance of summons, the complainant does not appear on the appointed date of appearance of accused, the magistrate may acquit the accused unless there is reason to adjourn the hearing to some other day, but where the complainant is represented by a pleader, or if the magistrate is of the opinion that the personal attendance of the complainant is not necessary, then he may dispense with his personal attendance and proceed with the case. For the acquittal of the accused under section 256 subsection 1, there are certain ingredients which are required to be fulfilled. Firstly, that summon must have been issued on a complainant. Secondly, the magistrate should be of the opinion that for some reasons it is not proper to adjourn the hearing of the case to some other date. Thirdly, the date on which the order under section 256 subsection can be passed is that day appointed for appearance of the accused or any day subsequent thereto, to which the hearing of the case has been adjourned. Section 257 deals with the withdrawal of complaint, and it provides that before the final order is passed in a summon case, if the complainant satisfies the magistrate that there are sufficient grounds for permitting him to withdraw his complaint against the accused, or if there are more than one accused, then against all or any of them, then the magistrate may permit such withdrawal and shall thereupon acquit the accused against whom the complaint is so withdrawn. Section 257 was dealing with the withdrawal of complaint, but on the other hand, section 258 provides the magistrate the power to stop the proceedings in certain cases, and which include cases which are based on police reports. Now, referring to section 258, these are those cases under 258 which are instituted otherwise than upon complaints and which are including police report, and the magistrate has the power under section 258 to stop such further proceedings. Section 251 read with Section 258 empowers the magistrate in a case instituted on the basis of a police report to discontinue proceedings at the stage of Section 251 of the code itself if there are no sufficient allegations or materials which would justify the continuance of proceedings for an offence. Section 259 of the code empowers the magistrate to convert a summon case into a warrant case if the offence is punishable with imprisonment for more than 6 months and the magistrate is of the opinion that it would be in the interest of justice to try such case in accordance with the procedure for trial of warrant cases.
Summary trial means speedy trial or without any delay of formal proceeding, that is a trial in an informal manner. Summary trial implies speedy disposal of cases, means a case which can be disposed of at once. Summary trial is not intended for a contentious or complicated case which necessitates a lengthy inquiry. The object of summary trial is to have a record sufficient for the purpose of justice, but not so long as to impede speedy disposal of cases. Chapter 21 of the code from section 260 to 265 of the code provides for summary trial, wherein section 260 provides that who can try the cases summarily. So as per section 260 of the code, subsection 1 provides that notwithstanding anything contained in this code, any chief judicial magistrate, any metropolitan magistrate and any magistrate of the first class specifically empowered in this behalf by the High Court may, if it thinks fit, try a case summarily. Now here if it says may, if it thinks fit, because it is the magistrate before the commencement of the trial has to take a decision as to whether the procedure for trial of warrant case or a summon case or summary cases would govern a particular case, and that decision has to be based on evidence before it. Now, which cases can be tried summarily? Section 260 provides for, and in general we can say that those offences which are not punishable with death or imprisonment for life or imprisonment for a term exceeding 2 years can be tried summarily, which implies that those offences for which the punishment is less than 2 years can be tried summarily. It will also apply in cases of specific offences mentioned in clause 2 to 9 of subsection 1. Now, during the course of summary trial, if it is appearing to the magistrate that the nature of the case is such that it is complicated and it is undesirable to try it summarily, then in that case, the magistrate may recall any witness, and it may have witnesses who have been examined and proceed to hear the case in the manner provided by this code. Means the magistrate may, instead of having a summary trial, may follow a trial of warrant case by magistrate or a summon trial. The High Court may also confer, under section 261, the High Court may confer on any magistrate invested with the powers of a magistrate of the second class to try a case summarily for any offence which is punishable only with fine or for imprisonment not exceeding 6 months with or without fine, or even for the abatement to commit such offences or even to commit such offence. The procedure for the trial of summon cases shall be followed except where a sentence of imprisonment for a term exceeding 3 months shall be passed in any conviction under this chapter. That implies that in a summary trial, the court cannot pass a sentence for a term exceeding 3 months in any conviction. Section 260 provides for the record in summary trial, which states that in every case tried summarily, the magistrate shall enter in such form and the state government may direct the particulars namely. And that is being provided from A to J, and which includes the serial number of the case, the date of commission of the offence, the finding, the sentence or other final order. Section 264 provides judgment in cases tried summary, and it states that in every case tried summary in which the accused does not plead guilty, the magistrate shall record the substance of the evidence and a judgment containing a brief statement of the reasons for the finding. The substance of the evidence in this section is to be recorded at the time when the evidence is given in court. So therefore, where the substance of the evidence is embodied in a judgment from memory or from short notes made at the time when the evidence was given, it does not amount to compliance with this section. And section 265 provides for language of record and judgment. This section emphasizes that every such record, that is a particular mention in section 263, and the substance of evidence and the judgment must be recorded in the language of the court. It also lays down that the magistrate concerned must himself sign such record and judgment. The magistrate must write his full name, and the mere putting in of the initials is not sufficient.
Thank you. Have a nice day. And for your questions and observations, you can write to me at my email ID. That is gautamgupta@mpednlu.ac.in.